Hey, everybody. Dave Hagan here. What happened in the stock market this week? The shorts took it in the shorts. That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or the TFWP, as we like to refer to it. This is Dave Hagan coming to you from Topanga, California today. And hey, we got Nick Capel coming to us from San Diego. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Mr. Hagan, how you doing?
Always good. Always good. Brian's taking the week off. And so we got Nick standing in, and Brian will be back with us next week. We'll have a full round table. But this week, I want to talk about this crazy stuff that happened with the stock market, the shorts and the GameStop, and people buying stock and running up the price and squeezing the shorts. And it was a phenomenal thing, apparently. But what we're going to do is we're going to have Nick tell us a little bit about it, because Nick, this is your area of high interest. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Dave, the great praise. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that's the first compliment I've had from you in a while. But
oh my goodness. Fill us in, dude. Fill us in.
But that being said, man, what a week in the stock market. I mean, you want to talk about a revolution from the retail investors. I mean, essentially, to make it very brief, there are these hedge funds that are shorting a stock, which means where the average stock investor bets that the stock is going to go up, these hedge funds are betting that the stock company is going to go down, or the company is going to go down.
Well, take us back out for just a minute. What's a hedge fund?
Sure. A hedge fund is a large company, a large corporation that has a lot of money invested, and they are essentially fiduciaries for others, and they place great investments in different stocks to make their clients money.
Kind of like what we thought of as mutual funds and stuff back in the day?
Per se.
So people put their money in, they invest it with this hedge fund, and whoever controls this hedge fund makes the investments.
Correct.
All right. So these hedge funds, which are large amounts of money, are out there, and they are buying stock short.
Correct.
Meaning, what is short?
Meaning that they bet the stock is going to go down in price rather than increase in price.
So they're betting against success.
Against success.
Okay. All right. So then what happened?
So then out comes Reddit. Are you familiar with Reddit, Dave?
Now fill us in.
So Reddit is essentially a public forum that allows speech and people to speak their minds. And there's this subreddit called Wall Street Bets. And on Wall Street Bets, people are saying, quote unquote, let's take GameStop to the moon. And essentially, let's overtake the hedge funds as a bunch of retail investors, people who are not necessarily everyday investors, but who want to throw a couple hundred, a couple thousand in the stock market and see what happens. And
right. So Reddit's just a forum. It's not an investment platform.
Correct.
Okay. So
and
there's
Dave, Dave, we should say that we are not giving any financial advice. We are just speaking on the facts.
Right. Exactly. We're talking about what occurred and what we can learn from what occurred. Obviously,
exactly.
investing short term, that's all against what we're about at TFWP. But I still think it's fascinating as can be. All right. So you got this hedge fund. They've got all this money that they've bet short that some issues are going to go down. and people get together on Reddit and say, wow, what if we buy a bunch of this stock and run it up? We'll run the shorts out of business.
Exactly. It's a whole David v. Goliath situation. Like let's all the little people all get together and let's take over what David Portnoy, who is the founder of Barstool Sports, calls them the suits.
Okay. All right. But they're out there bidding up that stock. They're buying up that stock that's probably not in very good shape, or the company behind the stock's not in very good shape.
Right.
And they're bidding the price up.
Correct.
Right? All right. So what were they buying stock in? Was it just one issue? Was it just like one place? I heard something about GameStop or something.
Right. So it started out as GameStop. So
Okay.
that was their big stock that they want to invest in. But as a side note, one of the main or majority shareholders of Chewy, the dog company, he became one of the biggest investors in GameStop earlier this January. I think that may or may not have perpetuated this move.
All right. So what do we think about GameStop as a business? Isn't that the store where the kids go buy the video games?
I think of it as a Blockbuster. I mean, look what happened to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Out of business. But when people find a way to make money and they have a little change, and as Dave Portnoy says, I'm not going to bet against the power of the internet. It's kind of fun. I know, Brian loves his scratchers, but if I had a couple bucks, I'd throw it in GameStop.
Okay. All right. So you would be betting that GameStop's going to go up.
Now, who knows? I don't know now. But I mean, the stock's gone up like 1,600% or 16 times your original buy-in,
right,
within a month or since October. It's incredible.
But the point, at least from my perspective, is, and we've got different perspectives on this, it's a business that is shrinking. It's a business that potentially is in trouble. GameStop in its day was a very viable business, as was Blockbuster. But as people continue to download their games, running to the store to buy a copy isn't the same. And yet they've go ahead.
However, there's been talks, nothing's been confirmed, so this is still a rumor. I just want to let the listeners know it's still a rumor that as I forget the CEO's name. I'm sorry, but the majority shareholder from, I think, the founder of Chewy, who is an expert in e-commerce. E-commerce is his space.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly the rumor is that what he did with Chewy and delivering games and rentals or whatnot with Chewy, he's going to try, because he sits on the board right now. One of his steps was that he was going to sit on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so now imagine just getting these rentals of games for a couple days, just delivered to your door, or just delivered to, your PlayStation or Xbox for a couple days. You pay a couple bucks. And then, especially if it's not even physical, if it just goes to your box or whatever it's called, your PlayStation or Xbox, and you have it for a couple days and you get that fixation out, it can make millions, if not billions of dollars. I mean, I see this as a potential large e-commerce boost. What do you think, Dave?
Well, first of all, Chewy. I want to think this through. Chewy's not the guy from Star Wars, right?
That's correct. And it's not the granola bar that you buy either.
Got it. Chewy, I believe, is this company that sells pet supplies online.
Correct.
Okay. So the guy from Chewy, whose expertise is selling things online, is now on the board of GameStop.
Correct.
And GameStop is kind of receding. It's kind of going the way of the Blockbuster. But the thought is maybe because this fellow's on the board, that GameStop is going to be able to go on the internet, go virtual, and become a much more valuable company, perhaps?
That's definitely one theory, and there's others, that maybe we should talk about.
Go ahead. What are other theories?
So another theory, just going back to the hedge funds, is that now we have to talk about the regulators people who are regulating the New York Stock Exchange and how stocks are traded, because unlike any other stock, I mean, Dave, we can both agree that something that is tangential is in between 0 and 100%. Are you with me? So like, it can't be less than 0 because it wouldn't be there, and it can't be more than 100% because it'll be more than 1. Are you with me?
I'm barely with you. Go ahead.
I'll do my best to explain.
I'm a nuts and bolts kind of guy. Keep
I'll
going.
I'll try to explain. And so right now, you can go on any type of trading platform, your Robinhood, Ameritrade, E-Trade, Schwab, etc. So we're not calling out one company or another. And you can see how many stocks are being shorted for whatever reason. There was 140% of the stock being shorted in the middle of January. That is absolutely impossible. There's more stock being shorted than there's actual stock that can change hands. Are you with me now?
Yeah, but how can that be? I wouldn't think you could. You can't short more than 100%.
Like I said, call your congressman, call your senator, call the SEC. What's going on? But basically, 140% of this stock is being shorted, not
That means
traded.
Everybody's betting that it's going down the bowl.
Everyone's betting that they're going to lose. Everyone's betting it. And
well, they're gonna win by it losing, right? Because they own the stock short.
Exactly. And what the investors found is that if they, as a team, buy up this stock, it's going to make the short sellers, as we call them, or the hedge funds, buy this stock to cover their position. Right. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Because one big thing is, let's just say a stock is $10 and I put in $10 and I buy one share of stock and that stock goes to $20. I've made $10 on that stock.
If you're long on the stock.
I'm long on the stock.
If you're long, sure.
Exactly. But if I bet $10 and I buy that one share, if that stock goes to 0, I can't lose more than $10. Correct. I'm limited.
Right.
Whereas if someone bets that the stock is going to go short or it's going to lose money, that same $10 investment, if it goes to $20, you lost your $10 investment 100%. If that stock goes to $30, now you've lost $20. So you're losing more than you could have if you just invested that the stock would go up. And so that's what everyone wanted the hedge fund people to do, is they wanted to make them lose as much money as possible.
Well, and that's one of the biggest downsides, from what I understand, of buying stock short. When you buy a stock long, the worst that you can do is lose your investment. It'll just go to 0. But when you buy short, if the stock goes up an incredible amount, you could lose many, many, many multiples of your investment.
Exactly.
And your broker's calling you saying, you need to cover, you got to put money in.
And speaking of that, just some facts. I was researching CNBC and the New York Times, and that just in January alone, Melvin Capital, which is one of the hedge funds, the big hedge funds that betted against GameStop, they lost 53% of their company shorting GameStop in January. You ask me, Nick, how much is that? They lost $8 billion since 2021.
So they had a huge short position in GameStop. And these people got together and said, hey, let's buy a bunch of this and run it up. And this entity, Melvin Capital, lost 53% of its fund value in a month.
Yes, exactly.
Insanity.
Not just them, but all their investors as well.
Right. Wow. Now, what do you think about this, even being able to buy stock short? Is that a good idea? You know, my experience with shorts, I mean, I would never buy stock short. I don't like the idea of betting on someone to lose. And I don't like the unlimited downside. But my experience or my knowledge of shorts was the last couple of years when a lot of people were shorting my buddy Elon over at Tesla. Right. And it was creating a lot of stress on the value of his stock. People wanted it to go up, but there were a lot of people that didn't think he was going to make it, so they were buying him short. And even when
Right.
he was having some success, he was still one of the highest shorted stocks on the market. And this was just driving him crazy. Is it a good idea to let people bet on someone to fail?
Well, I think it really goes down. I mean, not to sound too philosophical, but to me, it comes down to a free market. I think if you want to put money in, you should be able to bet long. You should be able to bet short, bet options. But I mean, options and all that's a different episode. But
Mm-hmm.
I just personally, especially when, well, we should talk about this later on, but Robinhood restricted some stocks from being bought this
Mm-hmm.
previous week. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that, just my personal opinion and no one else's, and not TFWP, so don't worry, Dave. But I think that if you think a stock is going to go down, if you want to put money in and you want to take that inherent risk, you should be able to. And if you think a stock's going to go up and you want to take a long position, I think you should be able to. So that's just my position.
Okay. All right. As I was listening to you talk, something occurred to me. You used the term bet 3 times, not invest, bet. And I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm saying maybe perhaps the people that are involved in this are seeing it more as a bet and less of what it should be, an investment.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, moving away from GME or GameStop really quick, I mean, there's these other companies that Reddit's pushing, such as BlackBerry, Nokia. There's just one stock called Naked, which I think creates men's underwear. But where are these companies? I haven't had a BlackBerry in 15 years. I haven't had a Nokia in 20 years. I mean, I don't see them in the news. I mean, to me, it just seems arbitrary, like you're picking a number on roulette.
I mean, it seems like it to me. It
Right.
seems like it to me. And then the people that are participating in this forum, Reddit, if they all get together and say, "Hey, let's run it up," is that like some kind of group stock manipulation?
Just my position again, Dave. I would say no, because it comes back to free market. However, let's just say, you go back to the 30s, 20s, and, you have the Italian mafia sitting on a couch smoking cigars and, like some type of mafioso type stuff. I think that would be more manipulation, or to where Robinhood is limiting the types of stocks that you can buy. And also, this might be tangential, but Robinhood was in talks with Melvin Capital and with Citadel, but we can get to that later, and giving them free advice as to what the Robinhood traders were investing in or betting in, whichever you prefer. But yeah.
I mean, and just to be clear, I don't want to say specifically that these were, mafia people, or especially not Italian mafia people, perhaps underworld elements. I understand what you were saying, but
Just an example. That's it.
Just to be clear, I don't want to get a lot of emails this week, Nick. So people are sitting around saying, "Hey, let's bid this up." They go out and they buy the stock. Because everyone starts buying the stock, the price starts going up. But these are people that are putting money out there just to build the stock up. I mean, as the market settles again, these stocks are still going to go down, it would seem to me.
You would assume, Dave.
Well, and I would also think that people could lose money bidding it up. You know what I mean?
Dave, people can lose money in X, Y, or Z ways. I do think that these types of stocks, I mean, put it this way, AMC, which is another stock that's a Reddit type stock, people haven't gone to the movie theaters since last March, if not earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what business does this stock have going up 800% in the last week? I mean, at least in Southern California, we're still in the purple tier. We can't go to indoor movie theaters.
Right. So you're telling me that this phenomenon happened to AMC theaters as well?
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
Not to the same degree, but also where I was talking about the GameStop float being around 140%, AMC is around 40%. And also the available shares. Dave, I think that if someone wants to know all this, that just send us an email. We will send you a very good and substantive email, and I'll write it personally if anyone has a question about
but
it.
I want to understand the basic elements of what occurred, because you hear the little blip on the news, AMC up this amount, or GameStop, blah, 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 blah. And you can misunderstanding it if you just listen to the blurbs on the news.
Sure.
That's why I wanted to spend some time talking about this, to completely understand, and frankly, Nick, to have you fill in some of the gaps in my understanding. But I think I'm starting to get the hang of it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. The thing is that I've read so many articles and forums about what's going on, and it would take more than this one podcast. I mean, maybe we can have a part 2. And I mean, who knows what's even going to happen next week? I mean, people are still upset about the hedge funds. And let me tell you, Dave, this is not the first time it's happened. But I do think through technology that people are becoming more aware of what's actually going on behind the scenes and what the quote unquote suits are actually doing.
Yeah. But I mean, upset with the hedge funds. I mean, I already told you I was not a fan of a hedge fund, not necessarily a hedge fund per se, but a hedge fund per se, putting a lot of money on a short position and creating undue pressure on a stock. What about the Reddit people getting together and basically bidding up a stock? I mean, that sounds kind of upsetting to me. That sounds like market manipulation. And I'm not a securities lawyer. I'm not rendering any kind of an opinion. I'm just saying, geez, you get all these people on a forum and they say, hey, let's buy this. Now, I could understand if they thought that the guy that was on the board was bringing value to a morphing, kind of GameStop entity. There, I would understand that. But AMC Theaters, it's not the same thing. It's the same guy isn't on the board at AMC, right? The Chewy dude.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hear your point loud and clear. However, I mean, let's just say, Dave, you go to your closest friends and you say, hey, let's put a large amount in the company XYZ. What's the difference? I mean, what's the difference from having a forum and telling your followers, hey, let's do this? I mean, there's no coercion, there's no duress. People are free to make their own decisions. They don't have to put their money in.
True.
But I also think that they don't want to have a regret. I never got into GameStop. I wish I did, but I'm one of those people who is just more conservative to, as what, some are labeling it as a meme stock, MEME stock, because it's just a meme. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of like we were talking earlier. I mean, it's kind of like this group of people are like the David, and then these hedge funds of the Goliath, and they're battling out to see which way the stock can go. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? And then you have Robinhood, who's kind of like the referee, who, when David's winning, says, whoa, 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 we got to put a stop to this. We got to implement a new rule. No, we are taking away your sword, and now we're giving you a pickaxe.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. And in your analogy, Goliath would be the hedge fund,
exactly,
where individual people have put money into this fund, and one person or a small group of people are making this short investment, a very, very large amount of money moving in on a stock short. On the other hand, the David in your analogy seems to be, and I gather this from what I've seen from the news, small individual investors, people who aren't putting in large amounts of money. They're putting in $1,000 or $2,000, but it's a very large number of Davids. So you take all those $1,000, $2,000 investments, and when they all invest by talking to each other in Reddit, that now becomes a very large sum of money.
Oh, yeah.
Just put in, though, by individual people. So now you've got 100,000 Davids up against one Goliath, although there's a lot of people standing behind the Goliath too. I suppose it's just how you look at it.
Well, I mean, put it this way, Dave. to make the Goliath go down $8 billion in a month. And let's just say, for hypothetical sake, that were to happen in 1 year, that company, if it were not to go bankrupt and it did have, the liquidity, would lose over $100 billion in 1 year. That's how many Davids are getting together and saying, we don't think this is fair.
But isn't that a totally new, eye-opening experience in the markets?
Dave, I had to buy new glasses to see this eye-opening experience. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
I mean, this is really a different way of thinking about what's going on out there.
100%.
Amazing. Simply amazing. Thanks, Nick, for kind of filling in my understanding on this.
Of course, Dave. What am I here for?
And just to be clear, none of this type of betting is not the kind of investing that we would ever encourage on TFWP. We've got an episode coming up in a couple of weeks where we're going to talk about the low, slow, and grow approach. But I think it's fascinating as people have more and more money and they have the ability to move in and out of the markets on these different platforms. A lot of people investing their money now on phones. I think it's changing things. And it's interesting to watch and see what everybody's doing. That's a wrap for this week. We'll see you next week. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.